Hey folks, welcome back. All right, so today is a big day, astrologically speaking. We have a super new moon and solar eclipse in Sagittarius. Unfortunately, most of us aren't going to be able to see the solar eclipse because, for the most part, it'll be Antarctica that'll be able to witness this event today. But it'll definitely be felt, and it will be felt for as long as the next 6 months. And this eclipse marks the end of our current eclipse season. So it's definitely a doorway to new beginnings. New moons in general are opportunities to plant new beginnings because it's when the moon receives energy. So she goes black in the new moon and she receives energy, and the full moon is when she releases that. So, in addition to this tendency to be able to pull in the resources and the energy needed in order to plant new beginnings, and the fact that it's a super new moon where the moon is actually closer to the earth and thus has a greater influence, it is also a solar eclipse where the moon is in between the sun and the earth. And so we have our emotional self, which is the moon, aligned with how, like, our more mental self, which is the sun, as well as the sun is also how we express ourselves. It's associated with the solar plexus chakra. It's associated with our right to act and our right to influence our lives. So there's a gateway that's opening today. And because of the fact that this particular alignment is going to have very long effects, what we're going to do is we're going to use the runes to take a kind of a bird's eye view and see what is it that we need to know for the next 6 months around this, and then maybe drill down into some details using the tarot, especially around what is it that we need to know for the next 2 weeks between now and the next full moon on December 18th, where the solar eclipse can be looked at as like kind of like the birth canal, where we're in the transition of going through the gateway into new beginnings. And then on the full moon on December 18th, all of the energy that is being pulled in and concentrated and gestated for this new moon, it's like that will be when we're finally birthing these new beginnings, where it's like we've arrived, and we will continue to probably work on those new beginnings, whatever that they might be, like I said, for the next 6 months. So we're going to get a bird's eye view over the next 6 months with the runes, and then we're going to drill down into some details using the tarot on what it is that we need to know for the next 2 weeks. All right, so without further ado, all right, just join me here, setting the intention. What is it that we need to know or do to serve our best and highest good surrounding this solar eclipse super new moon in Sagittarius on December 4th, 2021? Okay. So keep in mind that what we're looking at now is what are the influences over the next 6 months. So the very first rune pull that I pulled, we had 5 runes that came out, and the runes that came out right side up, meaning those are kind of more surface level influences, things that we're a little bit maybe more aware of, is actually 2 complete polar opposites, which totally makes sense because a lot of us are feeling kind of this friction, this tug and pull between what it is that we want and what we think is possible, and between that and where it is that we're at, and all of the things that may make us feel a little bit more stuck. Because here we have the ice rune, Isa, and success, Sowilo, which is the lightning bolt or sun ray. And the more subconscious influences, the runes that were face down, was desire, movement, Rhino, and direction, as well as self-sacrifice for the greater good, Tiwaz. So that piece there is very possible that that may be the sticking point as to what is keeping us kind of in homeostasis and for a while, because we have had a ton of purging over the last year, astrologically speaking. It has been like, letting go, like taking a look at the shadow. Like, I mean, it's just been one thing after another, and that can feel really overwhelming. And it's leaving a lot of people feeling kind of almost frozen, because it can be overwhelming to be faced, to feel all that stuff. And we may not even be able to completely understand what it is that we're feeling. And so this piece here that we might be faced with, especially I think in the next 2 weeks, is getting really clear on specifically what it is that needs to be let go. What is it that we need to just surrender in our life? Is it a job that no longer serves us? Is it a relationship? Is it, Rai though is about movement. And this often comes up for folks when they're contemplating a physical move. It can also be more of like a spiritual move as well, but it's very possible that maybe what we're giving up is a home, that where I need to sell a house or to rent something different or to get roommates in order to make something happen. So there is some sort of sacrifice that is needed in order to create space for something new. And that's kind of, that is the start of creating anything new in our three-dimensional reality, is to create space. A womb is the very first thing that is needed. A vessel, enough space to be able to hold whatever new seeds of new beginnings it is that we want to plant. So there may have been, up until now, a tendency to kind of almost want to hold on to what it is that we think is going to give us safety and security, or not really sure exactly how we want to move forward. So we're a little bit less willing to let go or to surrender or sacrifice things that need to be let go of. But the time is coming to where that ice is going to melt, and we're going to get really clear on, in order to move towards a specific direction, what it is that we need in order to pull up the anchor. Then the next rune pull, I'm looking at this as almost kind of like what might end up happening like in that month, like 6 weeks from now to 8 weeks from now. And we have the seeds of new potential, new beginning. So again, we have in the full moon on December 18th, which is going to be 2 weeks from now, is going to be setting the stage for like that month, ahead and into 2 and 3 months, where we really start to kind of cultivate that tangible pieces of moving forward. And that is the harvest rune. So we have the seeds of new potential. They came up with the harvest rune. And, I look at that as that the seeds that we created the container, so to speak, right? Like you dug your little hole in the soil, so to speak, in this solar eclipse, and then going into the full moon and into a month to 8 weeks from now, we then are starting to see the germination of those seeds, and we're starting to see that there's like, it's like, oh, like it's really happening. This might actually happen, so there's kind of this excitement. And what's also really beautiful is the other rune that came up with these other two is the shaman's rune, Elhaz. And this is the one of the most powerful protection runes of the entire Elder Futhark. So I look at this as like kind of a reassurance that the whole process is blessed. There's most likely what will end up happening especially over the next 6 to 8 weeks, is we might kind of get scared. Like there's all kinds of shift and shaking happening, and there might be like this kind of this duality of excitement and anxiety all at the same time. And so, 6 to 8 weeks from now, we might get kind of a milestone that's like, keep going, keep going. You may not even know exactly how this is going to really pan out, but there'll be enough synchronicities and perhaps even some feedback as far as momentum that's created, where it's like, okay, no, it's totally worthwhile to keep going. Just keep putting one foot in front of the other. And then we go into the second half here, and we have Fehu, luck, wealth, prosperity, all the good things. We have joy. I'll take that. Yes, please. And we have vitality and manifestation. It has been a minute since we have had runes that are coming up all at the same time that are so positive. I mean, I think that it's fair to say that the last 18 to 24 months for a lot of folks has been kind of tough. And, in different ways for different folks. But this is really reassuring that there is a real possibility to allow our own individual desires, as well as how you want to express yourself authentically as an individual, and that it might actually work out. It might actually work. So let's take a look and drill down into some details here, especially over the next 2 weeks. All right, so now we're going to use the tarot. What do we need to know between the new moon in Sagittarius on December 4th and the full moon on December 18th? To serve our best and highest good. Okay, so I'm going to tie this into what it is that I do know about the solar eclipse. One, the new moon in Sagittarius is at 12 degrees as well as the sun, and this is going to give us more drive, more enthusiasm. We'll have a focus on education. Mercury is at 15 degrees in Sagittarius, so only 3 degrees away, and so there's going to be some focus on gathering information and communicating from the personal perspective versus the one thing about that is that we may lose objectivity, but the perspective will be very much about honoring the self. And so one of these things, and I'm going to tie this into the King of Cups reverse that's coming up, because this is a little bit of the warning, is that with all of this, we will find new confidence, new drive, new enthusiasm, kind of a revitalization if we've been feeling kind of depressed or anxious lately. And so it's all very, very good. The one thing about it is that it might make us so confident that we might end up maybe taking risks that are not very smart. Or almost being kind of domineering where like I said, we might lose objectivity and thus become a little bit too egocentric. So the King of Cups is very much reminding us to keep the objectivity. Don't let ourselves become too domineering, and being aware if we might start, even if it's unintentional, having an agenda that even if it's accidental, where we might start manipulating other people. So that's the thing to keep in mind, is that amongst all of the confidence, amongst all of the new enthusiasm and the new drive, is that there's this real balance that on one side, it's really great that we are honoring the self and honoring our own self-expression, and we're getting us excited about what it is that we have to bring to the table at large, and that what it is that we have to communicate is worthwhile and has value, and to act upon that regardless of what anybody thinks. The flip side of that is that we might end up getting too big of a head. So let's just make sure that we keep it in check. But then we're reminded of the gifts of this solar eclipse. And over the next 2 weeks, any kind of intuitive work that we might do will bear great fruit. These two cards came out together. So the Ace of Pentacles oftentimes is related to monetary wealth and receiving resources, but it's not just money. It can be money, but it also could be a lot of other things. It might be opportunity. It could be an opportunity to be seen or be heard in a bigger way. It could be opportunity as far as if we're looking for a new place to live, because the Pentacles is about material resources in general. Usually it's associated with money because, money makes the world go round, but it can be health, it can be our home, it can be anything that is a material resource that we need in order to support ourselves or our endeavors. So your intuition will lead the way. Also, it's important to note that in the High Priestess is holding the Torah. This is about sacred knowledge, and I think that this is very much tying into what Mercury is bringing to the table with this solar eclipse, where we'll be very interested, especially in the next couple weeks, at gathering new information. And the full moon is going to be in Gemini on December 18th. And Gemini is all about information and communication. So it wouldn't surprise me if that theme might end up extending out into for the next month or so. So lots of new information coming to the table. We might get new insights. We might get inspired. There might be some new opportunities that come to the table where we're perhaps the information is leading us to find out that there's actually more options than what we thought. Good stuff. And then we have another kind of warning, so to speak. The Emperor is reversed here, and he came up with the Prince of Pentacles and then the King of Pentacles reversed. Very, very interesting, right? So we have the Emperor that is saying, kind of similar to what the King of Cups was saying, is be careful of becoming overly domineering or my way or the highway kind of thing. And the High Priestess, if we're connecting with her, will take the right actions at the right time. This is a very fiery alignment. It's Sagittarius, all over the place. So there might be this antsiness to just do for doing's sake, where we just have to do something. And the High Priestess is saying, what you need to do is talk to me. What you need to do is go within. And from within, we'll be able to know what the right actions are at the right time. That's really key. Because remember what the runes were saying with the ice is that we're, especially in this next 2 to 4 weeks, we're in the midst of kind of melting this stagnation, this lethargy. We're kind of brushing ourselves off, so to speak, especially from the last 18 to 24 months. That process, and this is the birth canal, right? We haven't completely arrived at our new beginning. So the Emperor might say, that we're feeling ourselves be a little antsy, and we might end up getting frustrated because things aren't happening quick enough. And the High Priestess, as well as the runes, are saying, slow your roll. Getting this, if you just take one step at a time, you'll be able to get to where you need to go. And that is what the Prince of Pentacles is saying. The Prince of Pentacles is, he is, I don't want to say the least dynamic. That's kind of poo-pooing him. But the Prince of Pentacles is the most methodical and slow-moving of all of the princes, knights. And this is the knights in this deck. And so, but when he plants a seed, he plants it very deeply, and those seeds will grow very deep roots that are sustainable and long-living. He doesn't rush like the Knight/Prince of Swords. He takes one step at a time, and he plans ahead, and he gets to where he needs to go. It's like slow and steady wins the race. So if we allow ourselves to get a little bit too hot-headed, if we allow our desires to kind of run away with us, then we might end up sabotaging that which we want to create. So allowing that this fire and this revitalization to be kind of a slow simmer versus something that ends up kind of running away, the fire that ends up kind of running away with us to where we end up having no control over those desires, taking maybe some sloppy risks, and perhaps maybe getting ahead of ourselves and falling a little bit too much into ego is what could happen if we don't keep these energies checked and in alignment. We can, on the flip side, use that fire as a kind of a slow simmer that will allow us to stay the course, that will allow us to keep going even when we're not completely sure of the most direct course to take. Let me see here. If there's anything. Oh, one thing I wanted to say about this is that with Mercury being in Sagittarius, that there's very much big picture thinking that takes place, which is awesome. On one end, this will keep us from getting so bogged down in the details that we go into perfectionism and then get really frozen. Isa. So this is really good as far as being able to really nurture that drive and that forward vision. This is all about forward. Like there's very little energy here that's about looking in the rearview mirror. We've done that for like the last 18 to 24 months. I think we're good on that for a little while. And so this is about big picture thinkings, but at the same time, there are still details that do need to be attended to. So making sure that we're not just losing our perspective on that. There are still probably paperwork that needs to be done. There's bills that need to be paid. All of that type of stuff needs to still be attended to. So not making sure that we don't get so wide visioned and so big perspective that we start losing the details. Let's see. That's pretty much it. Yeah. So this solar eclipse is very much a great time to be able to dust yourself off and start again. And the runes are saying that if you do so, and you allow this fire to be a nurturing fire that you can tap into and just allows you to kind of keep the course, the Prince of Pentacles, and we don't get ahead of ourselves, that slow and steady will win the race. And by 6 months from now, we might be in a much more fulfilling position. Like we feel more fulfilled than we do today. So, all right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me here. And I look forward to seeing you in our full moon reading, where we're going to check in again and see what the energy is doing then. All right, guys, have a great one.